All right, I think we are up and live. One last button to hit today. And let's see, let's get our comment in there. There we go. I'm going to clean up some of this background today. That's where we're going to start. Clean up some of this mess. These pokey holes and things like that. So I think that's what I'm going to start with today. And then start with that. Like these spots in here, or just along these edges up here, that's a little goofy. So that's stuff I want to kind of clean up. So let's see. If I can color match this, that should be the challenge of this stuff. Is really color matching some of these areas I want to touch up. So all right, feels better. How's that look? Still too light. A fresh piece of paper towel. There we go. Oh, quiet this morning. Where's everybody? Where are my usuals? This will start dark, really go lighter. So medium on here. I forgot about that. There we go. A little bluer. There we go. That's much better. All right. So looking at the, I want to kind of break up some of these edges along here. Good morning. Quiet this morning. Must be Friday. May 1st, huh? Am I using watercolors? No, this is acrylic. So it's I've been using I started yesterday, well, a couple days ago, earlier this week, started this and started with airbrush. I want to use mostly airbrush on it, but I kind of want to go through and tweak these edges. There's a kind of an atmospheric effect I'm looking for, and so I'm trying to deploy that here. And then there's just some things from the masking process I was using that didn't work out like I wanted, and so I wanted to kind of come in and tweak some of those things first. So it needs to be a little bit darker and colder. Like that. That's much better. Yeah, so I'm just kind of going back in and tweaking some of the stuff. I'm trying to teach myself to use the airbrush. So I've got the compressor over there, cheap compressor, and then I've got this pretty good airbrush, I think. And anyway, I'm always trying to learn new things, and this is on that list of things to learn. And I mostly wanted for like some atmospheric effects and splattering. So just kind of softening. So I was trying out some masking fluid last time, and I've never used it before. And so I ended up with like a bunch of these little holes that you kind of see here and there and over here because I apparently did something incorrectly with it. So that's what we're working on here. Oh yeah. Mine is it's a called Galeria. They make it. It's a cheaper one, but it's the Galeria Mobius, and there were some really good reviews. And I'm kind of self teaching myself this, so I'm not you know I would not look to me to be the expert in with this medium with using airbrush, but I wanted to incorporate it into my process here. I just feel like there's certain kinds of atmospheric effects and things that I want to do. Um, but so like I was doing some practicing with it like a couple months ago, and I realized I was holding it wrong. So, um, but I like to use like this morning time to like learn new things and try new things, and so been doing a bunch of acrylics because I haven't done acrylic very much in a long time. And I had to teach it last fall, which I've gone over in here a few times, but I basically had to teach it last fall in a class, illustration class I was doing at my university. And I kind of liked what I did. And I hadn't really tried acrylic very much in like 20 years. I didn't like it as a student. I've talked about this in here before, but I really didn't like it as a student. So I was like, hesitant to jump into it. And I found that, I did a piece that I liked. And so I was like, oh, maybe in retrospect and looking back, maybe the problem wasn't so much the paint as it was the lack of experience that the painter, me, had with painting. Because I went over to like a, water, not watercolor, but went over to oil and gouache and digital kind of after that, and started doing better stuff. And I think maybe um, so I've been kind of doing a bunch of this stuff recently. I hear Iwata's a really good brand. Thought about spending more on one once I kind of get some more experience. Or the what's it, Posh or something like that? It's supposed to be really good. Um, but I've been looking at a bunch of kind of old school 80s and 70s illustrators, from before I would have been involved with illustration at all. And airbrush wasn't taught at my university, so um, I don't expect it to be, but it was just one of those things that wasn't part of what we did when I was a student at all. So darker. But yeah, so I was using masking fluid for the first time again yesterday. Um, Badger, yeah. Seems like there's a lot of good stuff. Like I like this Galeri brush because I figured it's a good training one. It was like $80 or something. I do realize that maybe I could use like a larger one if I want to do these backgrounds, those larger kind of wide feed ones or wider ones. Um, oh yeah, South Carolina, huh? I haven't heard of that one before. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. So I teach at Virginia Commonwealth University. Um, yeah, just trying to clean up these edges. Anyways, so yeah, my strategy here. So maybe you can comment on this. Basically, trying to work back to front. So just to kind of masked off these things and the foreground and sprayed in the background, and then I came back in and masked off this foreground area, and then painted in, put atmosphere on these guys here. Um, but but I kind of been doing that. I recognize. I'm trying to imitate the atmospheric effects of Pyotr Yablonsky. It's a pretty great digital illustrator. I was looking at his work, like, I think like this stuff would work really well atmospherically if it was, actually painted, not just It wasn't just a digital thing; it was actual physical thing. It just seems like I look at his work and I'm like, he's trying to emulate certain effects. I appreciate that over there in the Twitchy side. Um, so So that's what I'm trying to do here is kind of follow a bit in that style, get that atmosphere going in here. So that's thicker up there, so I need to thicken this guy a little bit. Um, I haven't heard of that one, so that's good to know. That's out there. If it's still there, I assume. Alright. This thing over here. I also want to play with some kind of alternative techniques. I've been doing just straightforward acrylic paintings. And I want to, so I brought out, my sponge, and I've got like a little stampy sponge here, and so I wanted to kind of play around with some of these other tools just to kind of see how I can use them, how I can kind of take advantage of, what makes acrylic unique as a. I'm always curious to find out kind of what stuff's out there because, like, there's always somebody doing something that I haven't heard of, and I'm always quite amazed by what's happening out there with different people. I'll come across something I just hadn't heard of, hadn't seen, or considered, or whatever. And, yeah, I wish I'd known about X, Y, or Z thing. It's like, oh, there's still a little bit of that gum in there. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I like to come on in the morning, spend like an hour or two working on these little projects. Hopefully, turn some of them into pieces I can stick in my portfolio and all of that. That would be optimal. Yes. Sometimes, like the chat doesn't refresh properly in the window. How you doing there, buddy? Dog was just like, I get up and burn. And let's see. Good morning. Let's see. That feels better. I need to kind of create some lines and things in here to kind of help with that, but 3-dimensionality there. A smudge. Let's see. Actually, I can knock that back later, I think. And over here. All right. Sounds completely interesting. Let's see. Today is Friday, right? All right, let's check this out. See what he's saying. Good morning. Trying to clean up some of these edges and things this morning. Hoping to get some airbrush back on top of it to clean it up a little bit, but Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Thought I saw a tail swinging by here. second. Let's see. Alright, I think I got those edges I needed to get cleaned up. So I thought I might do is play around with some texture things here. So let's see what I can do here to do something interesting, I hope. Get a little sip of the coffee. Good morning, good morning. People popping in. I think what I'm going to do, where's those little cups at? It's not there. Where'd it go? Alright, I guess I have to go over there. Some cups out real quick. Hi, Bob. How you doing? Yeah, my dog's always looking at me like, hey, what terrible thing is going to happen to me next? Nothing terrible is going to happen to you. You are fine. Alright, so I wanted to kind of play around with some textures and things. So let's see how this goes. So grab some paint. Let's get a cheaper brush for this kind of mixing. Oh, this one. Come on. There. Oh, that one looks more interesting. So so with that, maybe some of this paint. Alright, so we're going to try sticking this in here. And see what kind of mess I can make back here, right? Yep, let's do what? Answers that question. Let's put some of this white in here. Alright. Let's try this guy out a little bit, huh? See how this goes. Oh, it's wet. Let's sneak this up a little bit just to see what we can do to. Mess up this tip on the sponge here. See what that does. Yeah, like that. Let's get some more color back in here. Ah! All right. Let's see. Let's try mixing up. darker. So I'm going to probably make a little bit of a mess here before we're done today. Not darker, more paint. Sheesh. Sometimes you put paint, it's like, it doesn't feel like it quite gets as where it should be. How's that look here? Oh, still too light. I'm putting like more paint in here. It's just not quite matching the color I'm looking for. Ugh. How about you? Just trying to put some like paint in there, and it's just like not changing the color very much. That's better. That's better. When I come back in with the airbrush, maybe I can tweak that some. Yeah, that feels much better. Where's my little brush at down here to get the branches in there? Not you, not you. Where's my abused brush? You. Good morning. Come on. Try to put some color or darkness in here. It's just like not mixing up. Yeah. Still just the same value. Put a ton of paint in there. See. blue enough. Come on, blue. I'm putting blue in there. Color matching. All right, that's better. A little darker. That's better. There we go. That does feel much better. Got to push through sometimes, right? Good. All right. That feels much better. I was just like needing to get that clarified. Oof. How are we doing for time? Hour 11? Alright, so we're doing okay. Get some red in here, get some of this, and we're gonna hit up some of these edges on this foreground stuff. Make sure I know exactly where these things are ending and beginning. Sorry about that. Over there. Your show is on. What show? My show? Or are you leaving me for somebody else? See if we get some. Am I supposed to be jealous here or excited to have you here? I'm gonna try this stuff here. I'm trying to experiment a little bit with this version, so it creates like a little curved edge varied on this paper. Like that. And then I think I'm gonna do is like just try to use this to create some shadow edges. I think on here might be interesting. Like push that down. It's okay. Really could use some cardstock, I think, with this. That's a little better. Trying to this was this piece is gonna be more about like experimentation. The other ones were more about just like getting the acrylic stuff down. I was thinking here would be a good idea just to Yeah, I like that kind of effect. And pull this one up here. That's kind of interesting, right? A little bit different thing. Oh, you're talking about me. Who's talking about me? Is everybody talking about me? Should I be worried? Who's talking about me? The FBI? Everybody's talking about me. I can tell. It's kind of interesting. I haven't tried this before, so I'm trying out again a lot of new things. Break that up a little bit. Let's see if I can pull off some of that paint with this, just to soften down a little bit. Interesting, all the same. Kind of looking at, you know, Piotr Jablonski is. Have you heard of Piotr Jablonski? Chain went down there. You look him up. He's a pretty great illustrator, digital concept artist, etc. And I've been looking at his work. And I'm like, you know, sure, it'd be nice if, you know, to a certain degree, if it were done like with traditional media to a certain degree, like the atmospheric effects and things that he gets in his work. I'm sorry, Bosh. I keep throwing paper on the ground. I know. Ah. But he's just falling down. Right, Bosh? All right, you guys go in there and stay put. But definitely a really great concept artist, and I really like the atmosphere in his work. He has a very limited color palette that he works with, and I think it has like a really, really nice like effect. But I always look at, you know, and I do digital stuff, but I'm trying to kind of cut back on it, especially with all the AI nonsense out there. I probably should do this with like a heavier cardstock and make a bunch of these little templates. But with all that going on, um, kind of reconnected my interest in doing. I mean, I always do traditional stuff, but just like actually using it for real stuff, not just sketching or whatever. And um, so, you know, I kind of been looking at this stuff, thinking, you know, sure, it'd be nice if this is like done with traditional media. And so, one of the things that kind of as an artist, like you always kind of think about things that should be out there. So, like you look at work and you're like, oh, I wish, you know, this was a thing that was out there, or this was a thing, or something like that. And one of the things you kind of realize is that, well, as an artist, you can make that thing happen, right? It's like if I wanted to see this guy's work, you know, done, not just his work, but this kind of atmosphere and style done with like real media, maybe I should do that. Actually, I think his stuff would be easier to do with oil paint to a certain degree. So, so I've got some of his work in front of me along with the reference I'm using and thinking about come on, more black. My tube of black is like, I just need to throw it out. It's pretty dry inside, so it can struggle to get out. Let's see, some water on here. But yeah, experimenting a lot with the masking and stuff on here, I think is a good idea for me to play with stuff. So yeah, now it just goes black all of a sudden. So, but I don't know, yeah, it's all been. I always think it's a good idea to kind of get back to the things that I think work best. And, see. Nobody else jump out of there. Alright. Let's see. Alright. I'm gonna try some of this masking tape on here. Where's the edge on this tape? There it is. See how this Alright. Yeah. Let's see, where'd that brush go? This one, which is not the one I want to use. These guys, which are not the ones I want to use. Where did the that brush go? These other ones are fine. I just don't want to clean up the brush if I don't have to. Where did it go? Where did it go? So the second time it's happened where a brush disappeared on me. It's not up there. It's not in my hand. Not down here. Sometimes disappears. It's not on the inner edge of my drawer. Did I drop the thing that dropped? Let's see. Something did fall down. There it is. There it is. I got it. It's all part of my show where I'm messing stuff up, right? Alright, let's pull that off. See how that looks. There we go. Good morning, good morning. Popping on. Alright. Okay, just doing a little bit more kind of, I guess, experimentation with this for those popping in. So I was trying to do things pretty straightforward in the other ones. And this one I'm like just kind of pushing it a bit more with airbrush and sponges and a bunch of other things just to see what I can kind of get out of it. That might be a little bit different than I would get with just straight up painting it. See, where's the, there it is. There we go. We're getting some fun textures on here, I think. So I think that's a. Let me thicken that up a little bit there. All right. There we go. All right, I think that's probably a good spot to pause for today. Feel like I pushed it forward in good ways. Tried out some new things for me that I think are worth doing. That kind of brought me more in line with what I was looking for. And it's always a good idea, right? All right. Anyway, I'm going to call it there for this morning. Appreciate everyone that popped in, had a little conversation, and I will talk to you all later.